All right, welcome back. We are Game 2007. It says social and multiplayer game design, but it's really multiplayer game design 1. And there is a multiplayer game design 2 planned for fall of 2026, as we mentioned before. This week, what we're doing is we're talking about networking basics. We have to really start from scratch for some people. Some of you may not know things like what network topologies are like, types of networks and all that kind of stuff. We're going to be talking about that today. We also will start building with our new project that I've shared with you through Blackboard. Just make sure you target 5.5 for Unreal Engine when you download the project. Again, you can find that link on the Blackboard content there. So that's what we're doing today. And I've also released assignment 1. Guess what? It's due the same week and the same day as assignment 1 from yesterday. Again, I'm mentioning this only because you're going to see there's three assignment 1s that are going to be due on the Friday, right? And it's a lot. So, and especially since we're doing Global Game Jam that weekend. So again, there might be some modification of due dates only because, there's a lot to do, and it's only 2 short weeks, and you and your partner, hopefully everyone has a partner, are able to get going on the stuff that you need to do. So lots of work to do for both things, and there's different topics in all of them. So it's you got to keep up with some of the things that I've given you. So before we start, I want to talk about the assignment, even though you may not understand what I'm looking for right now, because this is a little different than yesterday. Yesterday, it was pretty clear. We were talking about some stuff with, the topic at hand, which was exterior level design, exterior, world building systems, if you will, that's what we were working with. But today, this is a totally different thing, and we'll talk about what this is. So again, what the idea with this first one is property replication. So one thing we're going to be talking about today is replication and what that means when we have multiplayer. So one thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing property replication. But before we even start with assignment 1, I have a bit of a plan for you guys to look at, and I've shared that with you, I believe. Here it is, the semester project overview, which is what I want to share first. So this is actually a document that you can find again on Blackboard. And what this is it kind of talks about what this whole thing that you're building is. And I think this might help for this one because until you know some of these terms, you're like, so what? 2 weeks and I don't even know what to do, kind of yet. So that's why I have this thing as well. So again, you can find this document up on Blackboard in the second week's content. But really what you're doing is you will have hands-on experience with Unreal Engine's multiplayer networking system. And by the end of the semester, what I really want you to do is gain a real practical understanding of how to use replication, RPCs, inventory systems with multiplayer, which is the real tricky part, as well as enemy AI implementation with multiplayer. How does that work and that kind of stuff. So more AI, building on the stuff that we talked about last semester, that's kind of the built-in AI that we have in Unreal Engine. You'll also be getting a little bit of AI in Game 2004, the course from yesterday, because we're also going to activate that kind of stuff across the landscape and inside buildings and that kind of stuff. So you'll have some of those as well. We'll talk about that stuff, but this is also included here. Maximum group sizes too, like we said, so hopefully you've signed up for a group already, and if you haven't, you need to for this course as well. Keep the same group like I mentioned yesterday and last week. If you want to work individually, you can. I don't recommend it. And then you have a starter project that was made for 5.44, but it's equally good with 5.54, so please use that one, and I'll talk about that project today. Each assignment contributes 15% to the final grade. Total grade for 4 assignments, or this project that you're building, it's one big long project you're doing this semester, is worth 60% of your final grade. And then grading for each assignment is broken into technical implementation, that's 80%, assignment videos, and DevOps. Okay, that's what we're doing, and those are the due dates for all of the assignments. And it's all one big project though. That's the thing to note, okay? So where this project comes into play is about property replication. That's really what this project is about. It's learning about how to do property replication, why it's important, and all that kind of stuff. So really what you're doing is using the starter project you're going to create a simple multiplayer game using a listen server. So we're going to find out what that is and how to set that up today. We're going to do that. And the game should include at least 2 players. You could add more players if you want to. I don't recommend it. I think 2 would be plenty, especially since you and a partner are working on it. 1 or more players should be controllable with a game controller. So one player will use a keyboard, the other one will use a game controller, or both could use game controllers, because in this case you will want to deploy things eventually by building. So you'll be building the app, and then once you've built it, you'll be able to use a listen server. So one thing that we're going to be doing also with this one is, just to be clear, we're not doing local area network, and we're not kind of tunneling through the Steam, kind of Unreal Engine kind of networking. We're not using that at all. And there is a whole other framework, a system that we can tie into, but we'll be doing that in multiplayer too. So next time we get together about this topic, which will be fall of 2026, then we'll be using kind of more stuff. But this is just basics: understanding replication, understanding how to do things, what authority means, and all those things that we'll be talking about. And this is the first part of a larger project. Students will build their own level. So that's one thing. I've given you some assets that you can use. You can use the assets that are here. I recommend using the project assets and not anything else. That way it'll keep your scope low. So that way you don't have to be too creative in terms of finding assets and all that kind of stuff. I want you to focus more on, in this course, more on the functionality rather than how beautiful the project looks and fully creative. You have that creativity option for the course that we do on Wednesdays, which is yesterday. Lots of creativity there, opportunities. This one, we'll keep it low, right? So that way you can get your functionality out there. Griffin's asking, will this help us with stuff like web dev and other server networking? No, this is specifically for Unreal Engine, but it will help you understand remote procedure calls, the idea of having authority and what that means, because that's the same whether you're using Unity or whether you're using Unreal or any other kind of your own. Maybe you're going to build your own game engine one day. So, but in terms of web dev networking, no. I mean, I can always do workshops with you guys on web dev if that's what you're interested in, but that's not really the topic of this course, right? So, again, what I want you guys to do is create 5 properties that you replicate for the player in the game. Every player is going to have these: health, strength, speed, experience points, and level. So that's something that you're going to be doing. You're going to build simple and aesthetically pleasing UI assets to display these properties in some way. So we'll talk about that. And for each player in the game, this could be a series of progress bars for health, strength and speed, for experience points and level. This may be displayed as text, or it could be some other UI element, like, for example, hearts, or something else like that you want to, kind of put together. And the UI should not clutter the screen. Students may use a combination of blueprints and C++ as they deem appropriate for the project. That should make some people happy. So you don't have to use C++ if you don't want to, but if you find that that's easier to do, you can. Could the strengths probably be similar to stamina? Yeah, but stamina is really more of what we did with our last project, the third-person perspective project, where you swing a sword and it takes, it knocks a little bit of stamina off, or you dodge, knocks a little bit of stamina off. If you get hit, sometimes people use stamina for actually getting hit, and then, or knockback, where you can respond, so you have to build your stamina back up before you can respond and do something. Yeah, speed also could be something like that. But for the most part, strength is usually related to damage. So if, exactly what Jackson said. So usually if I have a lot of strength, then when I do damage, I'm going to do more damage than if I have less strength. Okay, so that's kind of how this is. And then we're right into the version control and the demo video that you've seen before in the past, right? So really, it's not a lot. It's really just replicating your attributes, right? So things like health, strength, speed, experience. And then, kind of putting it out there. It's you also setting up the project, making sure that it works with 2 players, creating a listen server, and all the things that requires. That's what you're really doing in this first assignment. Okay, so that's what's worth 70 marks. 10%, 10 marks out of 100 is for aesthetics. So if you want to add things like a beautiful user interface and that kind of stuff, that's up to you. Okay, But when it comes to the rubric, and I think we should focus on this, again, your multiplayer game works well and uses a listen server. At least 2 players are controllable in the game, and at least 1 uses a game controller. Player properties have been replicated for, to each player. Right? That's really all I'm looking for. And then the level you designed, because you have to also design a level, it works well and is aesthetically pleasing. So there is a bit of level design in this one. And the user interface is interesting, displays the replicated properties in some way, and does not clutter the player screen. So again, you and your partner can work on this together to make this okay. Could we incorporate similar functions from prior projects for the first semester with the properties health? You can, but you'll see that there's, like for example, if you want to incorporate things like an attribute component, if you really want to put that together, that's not a bad idea. So you can do that kind of thing. I'm not going to limit you in terms of how you do it, right? Remember we talked about the use of AI and all that stuff, and using your own code isn't a bad thing. It's just there's going to be some elements that you have to come up with on your own, right? So for example, using the user interface that's from our third-person perspective project probably won't work properly in this one. You're going to have to come up with your own, right? And we'll talk about some strategies around building health bars and that kind of stuff. User interfaces in general are very, believe it or not, more challenging than you think in multiplayer, because you want them to be triggered pretty much, actually you want everything to be triggered from the server, and we'll talk about how that is, right? Because the server is your single source of truth, right? It's your, I don't know what you want to call it, everything syncs up with the server. So if you don't do that, and if you do it from the client, then what ends up happening is you get out of sync with everything, right? User interface specifically, as well as, and you'll see later on, animations get really messed up in multiplayer, because you want to be able to show that animation across all instances of clients that are out there. So if I, for example, if I have 10 players and I have the server, whether it's a dedicated server or a listen server or whatever, and if I do an animation, right, whatever that is, let's say I do a sword swing animation. Well, that sword swing animation has got to be replicated across the entire server. So it's going to be broadcast that I'm doing that animation. You're going to see it on every client. So that's something that you need to figure out how to do, and we're going to talk about it, throughout the semester. So, so again, the level you're designing works well, aesthetically pleasing, user interface interesting, displays the replicated properties in some way, and does not clutter, and this is the most important part, does not clutter the player screen. So please don't just use text and it's like really ugly, and it's like, I'm gonna basically give you marks based on how nice it looks, right? So so make it look nice. Could you kind of use elements that you've used from last semester or whatever, or things that you've learned? Absolutely, but it's got to be your own, and it's got to work well with the style of the items that you're given. Questions around this? I know it doesn't sound like a lot, and you're like, wow, that's all I have to do, just replicate 5 properties for 15%, and then you're going to see that it's not as easy as you think. And part of it is because of the replication and the whole network topology that we're going to be talking about today, which is client server, right? Any questions around assignment 1 before I shut this down and start a new video? Again, this is due in 2 short weeks. We're sitting at, kind of on the Thursday, the 15th, and this is due on the 30th. And you also have the other thing. So this is where, the partners can work together to partition their work and put together a schedule, so to make sure everything is done on time. Okay? So that's this. I'll stop recording now, and then we'll start the new one.